Welcome to Confessions of a Wannabe It Girl. I'm your host, Marley Freygang, and I'm here to help you filter out all the bullshit and become the next It Girl. This podcast explores the reality of what it really takes to make it out there. As it turns out, it is way less Instagrammable than I thought it was going to be. I'm still very much a work in progress, but there's simply nothing else I'd rather be doing than chasing my dreams. So let's learn from my mistakes and work together to achieve our dreams with more confidence, clarity, and direction. Let's get after it. Welcome back to Confessions of a Wannabe It Girl. We are joined by Erica, a repeat guest of the podcast, but this time we will be talking a little bit more about her, but you can listen to a previous episode where she's joined by her mother to talk about their brand, Fashion Kush. And I'm just so excited to be talking to you and Howard. Howard is joining her for those of you watching on YouTube. He's the cutest little dog, and he's just sitting in her lap like a sweet angel.
I feel like I'm his emotional support human, so he like attached to me. But thank you for having me back. I'm very happy to be back on the podcast.
It's so fun. I'm so excited to dive a little bit into like how we got to where you are and give us maybe a little bit of tea on the influencer space and how you've seen it change, shift, maybe where you think it's going and all those things. So let's go back. Let's start with, where did influencing come into play for you? Was it called influencing? Did you mean to be doing this? Were you headed in a different career? Like, what's the tea there?
Yeah, so it was definitely not called influencing. It was just called blogging. I was in college. And I remember this moment like it was yesterday. I was on my Dell laptop, which I feel like you got like a college discount to get for like $200. I was laying in bed. I had purple walls. I painted my room purple. It was, what was it, like 2009 maybe? And my Dell said that it was full, like the memory was full. And I had all of these photos saved of like, at the time, this is what was cool, Mary-Kate Olsen, Nicole Richie, Paris Hilton, like all these photos, like Victoria Beckham, that was a big one for me. And that was the reason my computer was full and I couldn't write my paper for whatever class it was. I was in school for fashion merchandising, so it was all fashion related. So I was like, what am I going to do? And I just went to Blogspot, which was like the blogging platform of the times. And I started a blog and I called it Fashion Lush XX because my thought process was, mind you, this was also like a Friday night and all my roommates were out drinking. And I was sitting there like looking at photos of Mary-Kate Olsen. So I thought, this was just my thinking at the time. They're like out there being what they call lush for alcohol. And I'm at home being a lush for fashion. It was like my thought process. And then I added the XX, which like, sorry, but I just like over the years realized it sounded a little pornographic.
Sure.
Somebody pointed it out to me and I had to change it and I made it Fashion Lush. But for me, it was a hobby. And this landscape was so different. There was maybe 10 top bloggers at the time who were like really doing it in the fashion space. There was a lot of mommy bloggers, but this was not a thing. Like, there was no Instagrammers. We posted on Facebook, like nothing like an influencer. And my dream was to actually work in product development in action sports women. It was a very niche dream.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's not the same at all.
Yeah, very niche. I did an internship for Reef and I just loved product development. Like I just loved the whole concept of it. So that was my big dream. I got out of college. I didn't get the job with Reef that I thought I would, but I had my sights set on and I went to work in social media at a desk job. So I worked as a social media coordinator for a couponing company. And it was my first 9-to-5 job ever. I absolutely hated it. I learned very quickly it wasn't for me. I also was thrown into like a pretty big role right out of college with like very little social media experience because social media wasn't a thing. They just liked that I know how to do Blogspot and like Facebook. I took on this role. I did it for a while. Eventually the couponing company didn't pan out and they laid off my entire department. So at this time I was blogging still as a hobby. And this started to become like the Pinterest era, where like everyone was obsessed with like braiding their hair and DIY hairstyles and like these graphics walking you through like the like kind of infographics. It was a very weird time for blogging. But on my lunch breaks at that job, I would say like to one of my coworkers, I'll buy you lunch if you like let me do this tutorial on your hair or if you take pictures of my outfit. And like I was just posting like outfit of the day, but on the computer. And like I mean, blogging back then, just like as a thought process for people, which like I can't even grasp it now, is like I would get home and I had emails. I was going through my emails from like 2013, where I would just email myself blog posts, and I had like all these folders. Like blog posts were it. That's what you did for like 2 or 3 hours a night. It was like browsing on Instagram. So when I got laid off from the job, I called my friend. I was like, I don't know what my move is. Like, I have no plan. I hated a 9 to 5. I don't know what I'm going to do. I feel like if I want to do anything with this blog, like now is the time. I just got laid off from the job I hated. So I got a job at a clothing store to make money because I had to make money. And I would get off around like 5 o'clock and then I would work till 2 a.m. on my blog every single night. And I gave myself 6 months. So I was like, if in 6 months you don't make a real paycheck from this, you have to go back and look for a job. I think within 2 weeks of like just straight devotion, I got a job with Forever 21. Or wait, I think it was Forever 21. Yes, it was Forever 21. I think like Charlotte Roos managing their blogs with my content. So like I was like the blog writer for their blog. So then I was like creating content full time. I started booking collaborations. I stopped working at the clothing store and I just went with it. And I evolved with it. I'm trying to evolve with it. We're all trying to keep up.
Right. And so I think there's kind of like this misconception too that like once you get a brand deal or something like that, like you've kind of made it as like the creator, content creator. Like what was the thing you started doing that really grew the following and the presence even before or post those collaborations?
I think for me, like what really established my brand personal level was one, just like becoming okay with being authentic on social media. When I started, like I said, it was the Pinterest time. So everything it was travel blogging. It was, highly filtered, edited colors, very orange and teal. Like it was just a different landscape. And I never felt like I fit in for so many years of this influencing. I felt like I was just like getting by, really blending in with the crowd and okay with that, because of course there's like the fear of being different. Are people going to judge you? This was still pretty new. You didn't know how much you should reveal on the internet, like all of those things. But when I decided to talk about how I smoke weed and consume cannabis, is like when I got a following and established myself. And I don't think it was because everyone's like, oh yeah, great, another girl who smokes weed. I think it was just somebody embracing themselves and like feeling confident about that and being real on the internet. And that was like the beginning of what now is, as I see it, like relatability, realness. Those are what make people pop off.
Right. Right. Well, because I think about, because like I'm thinking about this era just being completely consuming content, and they were really intense. Parents, people in school, saying like, we don't talk about drinking on social media. You don't talk about weed on social media. You shouldn't post scantily, whatever. Like there was this very, very clean, polished aesthetic going on. And then, it's so interesting seeing grown up YouTubers who were very prevalent there talk about how all the time they would go to these conventions and just be getting like absolutely fucked up. But they weren't going to talk about it because they were told not to. And it's not because, whatever, we're all young, we all do crazy things, but it's just like the authenticity is completely off because here you are presenting this squeaky clean image, and to do something like that, some people think like that would be very bold. Did you get nervous like about that? Were you just like, I'm here?
No, I was pretty nervous because I didn't want to deal with backlash. Like there's some people who really live by like the motto, like if you're not like all press is good press, and if people aren't talking poorly about you, you're not doing something right. And that's fine. I never wanted to be that person on the internet because it doesn't make me feel good if I was like offending people, and like I would want to take accountability for that and like draw attention to that. And I also think there's a way to like you're influencing people, first of all. So like when I think about who are watching my stories, like I remain true to myself, but also I think, okay, like if someone younger is following me, I don't want to do this, that, or the other thing. Like I'm cognizant of that. And if people are being offended by your content, I don't think it's because you're doing something right. Like if people are talking poorly about you. So for me, it was really important that, I presented it in a way that's like, I'm still the person that like, I've been myself to an extent. I was a curated version of myself, but like, this is just something about me. And to get my audience to like know the full picture, because it didn't feel like I was giving the full picture, and I was getting so sick of the curatedness of social media at that point. Like, and you had to be this like image, you had to do things a certain way, you had to take pictures at certain places. Like it just was getting dull. And I think now that's where this is all evolved into, is like nobody wants curated anymore. It's just not it. Like it's fun to look at, it's pretty to look at. I still love a good aesthetic, that will never change about me. But like the highly curated, not just your social media feed, your whole image, it's out. Like it's not, But yeah, right. I mean, to circle back, I was very nervous, and I did not get one. I got one, actually, I'll never forget. I got one person that said, "I'm following you." And I said, okay.
Okay.
Like, it's fine.
Adios.
Yeah.
How have you felt like the platforms, well, we've had different platforms change and like go throughout the times, and then I also feel like Pinterest is having like a resurrection as well. Yeah. Like, what do you think the landscape of social media has gone through, and like what have we asked content creators to change with the times as well? And what has that been like for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely about evolving and always just like staying updated on the current news in the social media landscape. I think that in the beginning, I had a hard time with it. It was really hard for me to switch. You do things a certain way for so long to just like make this switch. But now I feel like I'm finally like embracing it and loving it, and really enjoying creating content again. And so I've just evolved and accepted that this is where it's going. I think for most influencers, it was probably, it still is, I still see it's a challenge to go from like taking pretty pictures, which like, don't get me wrong, it's a lot of work to take a good picture. Like it is a lot of work, a lot goes into it. And TikTok, if you're doing, or, this short form video content that's ruling the internet.
Yeah.
Yes, king. If you're doing it correctly, really, the idea is it shouldn't take as long, but it's hard because as people who are trained to care so much about aesthetics, to post short form content just like on the go and like not worry like if your house is messy or this, like, you're like, that's the thing. It's like if I was filming this room, I would tidy it up and then film it because I'm so like aesthetic driven. But what people actually want to see on TikTok and what perform well is the room in its actual lived in format.
Right.
Or, Yeah. So that's a hard transition. I mean, it's just accepting the new platform, the new generation, and, being a influencer elder.
You talked about the moment that you decided to openly talk about smoking cannabis, but like, how did you really make the brand of, Fashion Lush? And like, it starts with pinning those Mary-Kate and Ashley photos and whatnot, but like, it's such an interesting thing, I think, that you have to find something that's in the current, but that you stick out enough. How did you find that for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, that's like one thing that I would always say is like when I started talking about me smoking cannabis, like I was like, I don't want to be this like small fish in a big pond with all these other like girls are doing the same thing, getting the same Starbucks. Like, I really want to stand out. And I was also in a position where I was in San Diego, which I think was a benefit to me because LA, again, big pond of influencers, San Diego, smaller pond. But I think that, the one thing that did make me stand out the most was coming out that I smoked cannabis. I think a lot of people related to that. I think a lot of people respected the honesty. For a lot of people, it just clicked. They're like, duh, like, obviously, their shit, Joe. But I think after that, I felt much more comfortable in the influencer space. I felt much more comfortable being myself. I think, doing something that scares you and then getting a good response, it really helps you get the confidence to do more things like that. There's like certain things that I would do to build my brand. I mean, at that time, obviously the brand building is like very aggressive. So I would do like series. I would have series on Instagram stories that would happen every Monday. And, I was very consistent with my posting 3 times a week. I would work with other collaborators. I would reach out to brands that like really fit my aesthetic and my core beliefs. And, just through hard work and getting yourself out there, you will develop a brand for yourself. But I think it is finding your one thing. Like, that's why I started Fashion Kush, because cannabis became that one thing that made me stood out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that you continue, you don't just have the brand and then go. The brand comes as you are working.
Yeah.
Totally.
I feel like I've evolved into the brand and my audience has grown with me. And the other thing I would say is now there's like a whole can of influencer thing. Like that's I'm not a cannabis influencer. That's a whole category of its own now.
Right.
But back then it was not very talked about.
Right. And well, this industry, especially back then and then to now, can be really criticized for being like, image perfect and picture perfect. And I mean, I remember back, if you said in the blogger days, like, I'm a full-time blogger, people would be like, what's that? Now, my grandmother knows what an influencer is. The range has changed. How did you explain to people what you do?
I mean, I would call myself a blogger and no one would take me seriously, which was fine. I did not care. Now I prefer saying like I'm a digital entrepreneur, or I make up some term that like they're not going to question, because if you do influencers, there's so many, how much money you make, how do you make money, and like it's like this hot topic. But yeah, or I say that I just like to like people I'm close with, I explain that like I create content for brands. I also have my own business now, so
yeah,
that's really what I say.
How did you, overcome the idea of being picture perfect online? I think a lot of people, even though we have such a push for authenticity, I hear so many people talk about how they want to start a brand or how they want to be an influencer, but at first, like, it can feel so cringy, or they don't feel like they live up to the expectation of what other people are currently putting out online, even though we do have such a more push for authentic content. Like, how do you deal with that insecurity of putting yourself out online?
I think that it's really my audience reaction when I do that content. And there are times I post things and I think that is cringy and I want to delete it. And I'll delete it. Like if I feel like it's cringy looking back, or like I did a TikTok trend that was for like a 15-year-old. I'm like, oh, maybe I should have done that. But I think that it's just when I did things that felt really vulnerable for me, just like being super authentic, I've never had a negative reaction. It actually has, like, I would see it increases everything. My engagement. I just posted, I mean, a perfect example, I just posted this like reel on TikTok. It was my husband and I in Mexico, and he was trying to help me get that stupid Sophia Richie walk thing. Did you see it?
I literally saw it and I thought, this is so funny.
Yeah, and I was like, and then I had the Sophia Richie, like the final result, which was like, it wasn't horrible, but I just didn't like it. But I was like, I could edit this cute. I could put like a film, I don't know, film filter, make it cute, like edit the colors, just a great view. Maybe I should post this one. I was like, no, I'm gonna post one of us like trying to get this stupid TikTok trend and like the most beautiful view. And my husband having the patience of an actual saint. I was like, I'm gonna post that. And I know for a fact if I posted the other one, it would have been a flop. Like, people want to see, they'd rather see the BTS unless you're Sophia Richie.
Right. Right. Well, and that's the interesting dichotomy. We all want to be the Sophia Richie of the moment, but really the in between is much more interesting to everyone else.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to tap into. Yeah. I think people are so obsessed with like the behind the scenes. And, for a while, the world of, content creating felt very gate capped and people really wanted to know what's going on behind the scenes. Can you tell us like a little bit about what your day-to-day looks like now when you're working with a brand or another, influencer or content creator? Like, what does that really look like? People are so curious to know.
I know. I mean, I have a very flexible schedule. I work from home. So like a day in the life. I mean, right now we're launching our newest product with Fashion Kush, the stash bag. So our focus right now, me and my husband works for Fashion Kush too, is just head in the computers. That is our focus. So this is like, it's hard when you're balancing. That's another thing. It's like, I always say that influencers should find their niche and then create a business under that niche because we don't know the trajectory of all of this. And so I did that, a couple of years ago, and it's very hard to manage a business and also create content. Like both of those take a lot of time. And I don't think people realize the time that it takes to create content. Like if I'm going to have a day of just like batching some TikToks, I need that's my day. That's my whole day, batching TikToks. Like if I'm doing like Amazon try-on hauls or anything like that. And then taking photos. And I mean, maybe other people manage their time better than I do, but like with waking up, handling the business, I want to take photos. By the time I get home, it's like 5 o'clock, and then I edit some TikToks, and then dinner time, and then go to bed. Like it's like, from start, it's a very busy day, and people underestimate it. And the other thing that people really underestimate is that like as a content creator, like I wouldn't follow somebody personally, and I think a lot of people relate to this, that aren't sharing some behind the scenes of their life. If it's just pretty photos, pretty reels, and then aesthetic Instagram stories that show like your coffee, I'm not getting connected to that creator in any way. Like I want to see your animals, I want to see your family, like those things make you develop a connection with people on the internet, and then you become invested and you follow. It's just like the psychology of life. So to do that as a creator, it's like your life. Like you don't clock out.
Right.
There's no clocking out. So definitely a lot of work, but a lot of people work, a lot of harder jobs.
Sure. The range is there. How do you manage filming so much, not filming? Like, when do you decide to film? When do you decide not to film? Or like, it's not happening right now. We're just like, I'm trying to squeeze in showing my chaotic day. Like, how do you keep the brain space available for all that?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time with it, if we could be honest. Like, it's a hard thing. I think one thing that I've gotten better at is learning that if you, at this point in where I'm at in my career, I don't have to post every second of my life. And accepting that like there are times if I take, 4 hours off, documenting or creating content to like work on fashion, it's gonna be okay. And the other thing is, well, I said, showing the full picture is so important. The way from my understanding, Instagram just did an update, and it seems like they're not pushing 3 posts a day anymore, because that's not the pattern. People aren't posting 3 static posts a day. Maybe they're posting reels. They're definitely pushing reels more and TikToks more. Even for stories, the update said, we want to see 5 to 10 stories a day, not 30. And we don't want to see that anymore. So like, I think that the industry in general has shifted to like a little more lax, including the people consuming the content, because they are taking more breaks on their phone. They're really counting their screen time. So everything follows the trend. So the consumers aren't watching as much. They're still watching a ton, like don't get me wrong, but they're taking those more mental health breaks without like having the app force them to do it, or they used to have like controls for that. And so creators, I feel like, have taken a little bit of the pressure off. Like, and I love when I see a creator take the weekend off. I'm like, you go, girl. you take that weekend off. Like, I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate that too.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I'm like,
great. You're not on your phone. I shouldn't be on my phone.
Exactly.
I love that. As somebody who consumes a shit ton of content, like I've been very open about the fact that I have a very up and down relationship with consuming content. And yeah, I totally agree, because if you're not on your phone, I'm like, great, I shouldn't be on my phone.
Yeah.
And my favorite people, I do notice when they don't post. And I think that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I typically I'm also like, that's the thing. It's like, I feel like with this whole shift of social media being more relatable and in the moment, one, the breaks are appreciated by your audience. They're down for it. If you're on all the time, they're like, okay, enough. You need to step away from the phone.
I think that encourages me to unfollow you because I'm over it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just the same, so you've got all those breaks from your mental health, but also just for a little your audience, one will get it and they kind of like the mystery. I don't know. It's a weird thing, but taking the breaks, and I've gotten much more lax, and I think that that's been really helpful in my productivity in other places. And when I come back, I'm refreshed, and you're not just
pump them out.
Yeah.
Totally.
You're just
to make content though, it does feel like you have to be a little bit in the know, of what is online. And, that can lead to a lot of scrolling. And I call it the compare and despair scroll. How do you manage your consumption of social media? And have you ever felt the compare and despair scroll, and how have you dealt with it?
Yeah, I think before I did my first post about smoking weed, all I did was compare myself to others. I didn't have I wasn't very secure in myself. And I just was trying to fit this mold of what this influencer looks like. But now, I mean, I have to be honest, I don't know if this makes it awful, but I don't really scroll Instagram at all. I don't.
It's honest.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not a big scroller. I have my friends, I'll check their feeds and I'll watch stories. I think the video content I'm more drawn to. And it's interesting because I think I'm probably not the only person that would say that at this point, which is why, I'm okay not posting on my feed for a few days. This photo content is just people they want more. They just want more. TikTok's my big problem. You know, I do spend a lot of time on TikTok. I think that I really try to engage with the videos that I love so that I don't see the ones that make me feel like I'm not doing enough. So my whole For You page is true crime stories.
I was not expecting that.
True crime. Yeah. True crime. I'm okay, true crime or Amazon finds, things like that. Things that aren't making me feel you don't have to watch content that doesn't make you feel good.
Right.
Nobody's forcing you. So if I don't like something and I see it and I'm sick of seeing this person, there's a little thing you can click and say no more of this.
Right. Yeah, this is something I've done for my Instagram. I really should do it for my TikTok as I'm thinking this out, because I have the podcast TikTok or the podcast Instagram, and then I have my personal Instagram. And they're very different because of what I interact with. And I love it because if I don't want to see that kind of thing, I just switch accounts and then it's gone. And it's if I had that for TikTok, that'd be great, because I'm pretty sure it'd all be cat videos. And, that doesn't give me a compare and despair mindset. But of course, when I'm scrolling on TikTok and I see 18 million, podcast clips of these, huge celebrities on these shows, I don't feel so great. So, changing what you're viewing.
I want to support other creators, of course, but I just don't need to see. I think it hinders your creativity. I think it really lowers your productivity. I think, if you're sitting on TikTok for hours, which don't get me wrong, I have an issue with it. Usually it's right before bed, which is the worst. But I think watching what other people are doing really takes away from who you are and the ideas you could come up with. So I feel the more time I spend on TikTok, I'm not going to get original ideas. I'm going to get things I saw, whether cognitively or in the back of my head. and they're not creating original content, and then it's just not going to perform. So I just don't, I support the other creators and I love them, but sometimes I just don't watch a lot of other creators' videos because I don't think it does anything for my creativity. And I don't just want to do what everyone else is doing all the time. I want to like come up with my own shit on TikTok.
No, I love that. I think that's so important to say because, everybody thinks they can blow up on TikTok by doing what everybody else is doing, and that will lead to more scrolling, and I have this whole obsession with the idea of, everybody is addicted to the platforms and then everyone becomes addicted to the idea of becoming a content creator too, and both lead to just more scrolling. So I think there's this really, sweet spot of what you're saying. And that is just having original ideas yourself. And the less you spend, the more those will just flow and come because you're not inundated with that kind of information over and over and over again.
Yeah, I think as a creator, it would be so much better instead of like waking up and scrolling on TikTok for 20 minutes, like sit down with a pen and paper, write out some ideas, things you want to, talk about that week or post about that week. And I just think, I think in general though, like the transition for TikTok for the more what is it, Gen Z?
Yeah.
Gen Z.
Who are they?
Gen Z, them. Gen X, Gen Z, Gen Z millennials, like versus Gen X. Like, yes. I've seen it's a much harder transition, and it's just interesting to watch how everyone is like navigating this new space. It's interesting to watch.
Yeah. Speaking of something that maybe I was just not aware of as much in this space and this new space, I feel like there is a lot more criticism on influencers than there ever was. And like, I don't know if you've experienced or if you have friends in this space that experience it, but like, why are people just so bold in the comment section? And how do you deal with that?
Yeah, TikTok, it's like nothing I've ever seen before. Like, and that's like, I post it on Instagram and like, it's like hearts and flowers. You go to TikTok and you're like shaking to post that. And like, I don't know what these kids are going to say to me. They think people are like more anonymous and they just feel more brazen on TikTok. And it's true. They have no idea who they're watching. So it's different from Instagram. Instagram, you build your community, and like that's mainly who sees your content,
right?
Or people who would be interested in that. But like TikTok for you or whatever, it just picks up your video, and then random people who don't know you are seeing it. They might not know the context of the video. I also think video form, like I said, it's just like it's a hard one to navigate. Like it's, I saw some girl, she was under some heat for something. I don't know. One of the things was a little bit insensitive, but the other thing was like about a song she didn't realize it was playing, and she's sitting there saying sorry, and she didn't know, and like she just put the song like over a video, and like sometimes you're in a crowded place and you don't listen to the lyrics perfectly. You put it over a video because it's a trending audio,
right?
And people are like, cancel her, and like just calling her out, calling her stupid, all of these things, and I'm like, that is just wild to me because she made such a small, like, she didn't make an error. She just put a song over or something.
Right.
A song that everyone's putting over to her videos, maybe in a different context, but people are just really quick to crucify on TikTok and call you out on your shit. And it's hard because the platform is saying, be relatable, be relatable. Like, we want this short form, real content. And with that, comes a lot of heat. Like it just comes a lot of heat from people who don't know you. And you don't want to sit there and like write out scripts for your TikToks to make sure everything is like perfectly phrased. Even if you like say a word wrong, people are gonna like just crucify you.
Yeah, when Addison Rae couldn't pronounce I don't even know how to say it. I think it's Valentina. I don't know. Or no, it was Versace. And she kept saying Versace, and they were like, it's Versace. And it's like, all right, like give her a break.
Yeah. Get over it. Or like right now, the big drama on TikTok is Alex and Sophia Culpa, and like people are taking sides and ripping them apart. And like, these are strangers. Like,
we don't know
being so mean. Yeah, you're being so mean. And I see the comments. I'm just like, what? Are they okay? Like, are these kids okay?
I know. It's such, I hope the next wave of change on social media is that like we learn that we just don't have to say everything we think online. And
Yeah.
I'm again like I've never written something like that, but yeah, have I thought about it? And I've gotten so close, like of typing
Yeah.
something out and being like, this is really insensitive, or like, something to that effect, or just like, whatever. And then I always am like, what am I getting out of posting
Yeah.
this? But that, like, for some reason, doesn't always make it to the final click. Like,
Yeah, that's same with me. I mean, I think that, was it how like a different, I don't know, I don't want to say a different type of being raised because that can be sensitive, but like this new generation, they are just like balls to the walls, say what they feel all of the time, which is so great. And also like some things like deserve like a repeat in your head. Should I really say that? And you're not getting that on TikTok at all, which
right.
is, I mean, it's just going to be the climate of it. And like some people bring it on, a lot of influencers bring it on. They do things on purpose because they get a lot of views and content. And it's just fuels the fire. But I
I
hope
was
people use it
literally
a
going to say the
little.
same thing.
Yeah.
I was like, there are also creators in the space that make that what it's about. And
Yeah.
because, polarizing things are interesting, besides all of the, hate that they can see, how do you maintain a relationship with your audience in your, I want to say like comments, and I want to say the stuff that like we don't necessarily see. Like, what is those relationships look like now that you started from like a blogger space all the way to the TikTok phase? Like, what is that really look like? Not in all the posts that the rest of us see.
I honestly think one thing that's important that has always been like number one for me is the audience I've built, because like these people don't have to follow me and I wouldn't be doing what I was doing if they didn't. I don't ever ignore a DM. Like I reply to all my DMs, and they're people I've become friends with and like met in San Diego, and they came and visited, and I've had Brent and I talk to her all the time and we text all the time. Like I just have never been like the type of person to be like thinking that these are my fans. That's not how I think of it. Like,
Right.
I'm very much the normal girl. Like, and I just want to be like able to talk to. I mean, the other thing is that some people like they really could be living, I don't know, somewhere on the East Coast. Like, this is a whole different world for them, and they really look up to things I've done and admire them. And so I always wanted to talk to these people because they are what make all of this happen for me. And yeah, I mean, I've created friends, I've created really great connections. I found a cousin on Instagram.
Ooh.
Yeah, I found a cousin. Still in Chicago. That was wild.
That is wild.
Like
Yeah,
a close cousin too, that I did not know about.
I love
No.
that you have such, and it sounds so cliche, but you even said it earlier, such a true human relationship with social media. You just want to make things and put things out there that people understand and see in the day to day. What do you think has helped you always stay grounded in this space? It can be really glitz and glammy. And, we see influencers post about the 1.5 million events they go to, and, the flex. Like, how have you stayed so grounded?
I just am not super drawn to those things. I have social anxiety, so like I don't want to go to these events. Like I'm a type of person that's like, I want to be in my backyard, like laying by my pool. Like I don't want to go to an event. I used to when I was younger, but like as I've gotten older, I have social anxiety, and I just really have grown into knowing who I am, like who I am and what I want. And seeing those things, I feel nothing. I feel happy for the people that are there if that's where they want to be. And I love working with the brands that I work with that I'm really true to. I think, it's again like that scroll and roll. If you look too much, like I could be. I used to like when last freaking one of those, I think it was my second trip to Copenhagen, I like lined up Copenhagen Fashion Week, and I was like, this is my big moment. Like New York Fashion Week, like I never went to it. I have no desire, but like I was like, Copenhagen, this sounds great. And it was great. And I'm so happy I did it. But I'd rather go to Copenhagen and have a vacation and relax and be grounded and, not work on a trip. Like that's just not where my focus is as I've gotten more into this industry. It's like having to always be in the in crowd. You don't have to be in the in crowd. There are influencers who live in the Midwest on a dairy farm and like take cottage core photos and do great. Like, I just think it's staying true to who you are and like what interests you, because if that's what you want, then like awesome.
You mentioned mentioned earlier that, you're really like a digital entrepreneur. You obviously have Fashion Kush and can you tell us a little bit about, how you get the idea for new products with Fashion Kush, any upcoming collaborations that you're really excited for, and maybe what's the process of getting there?
Yeah, I mean, we're still a very small business and a small team. The ideas that we come up with. So when we really started Fashion Kush, I launched fast, and I just wanted to start something other than just creating content. I wanted to start something more tangible, and we launched fast, and we did a lot of like really cute accessory items and merch, and we have evolved as we have grown, and now we're really at this place where and this is where I get most of my inspiration from, is things around my house that I love, aesthetic items, but like I want it to be for cannabis. So like we're currently working on a grinder that like you will never know it's a grinder. It's so freaking cute and innovative, like things like that. So just new solutions to old products that are aesthetic for women, because there are so many ladies out there who smoke weed and have jobs and love good aesthetics and are stylish and all of the things. We want to make products for them because there is just not enough of that. It's in an industry geared towards men for a really long time. As far as our process goes, like I said, my husband's our project manager. He does all of that. I have my hands in everything. Like I have my hands in everything because I'm very type A, and I really like every detail needs to go by me, even the things that he does. We just launched our coloring book, which was and still is a hit. Everyone loved the coloring book. We worked with 17 artists from the Fashion Kush community to each create a page. There are multiple pages. So that's not really cute. By the time this launches, our stash bag will be live, which we are so excited about. The idea for that one in specific is my mom, she travels with her stash everywhere she goes. And it's like, one week, which like I do the same thing. If I'm going somewhere, I don't want someone to like pull out some crusty old joint that has like dust on it. Like I have very high standards, and I need like my joint, the one that I like or whatnot, and you need to carry it. So it's like, my mom's carrying on this ugly, dirty old bag, and like I just like throw it in my purse, which is not the best idea. So we created a smell-proof solution that is padded and so freaking cute. And you can wear it with your outfit because the stash bag on it. It's so cute. It's iconic. Really.
I can't wait.
Black and white. Yeah, so that's been really fun. And then now we're just in production for our grinder, which that's the first time anyone's ever hearing about it. We're very excited. And we've got other things in the works. It's when you're a smaller business, you do things a little slower, which I think is really good. 10 out of 10 recommend. You don't have to be pushing out products every week.
No, I think we're, from what I'm getting from you, we love kind of I believe in it, quality vibe over quantity vibe.
100%. 100%.
If somebody out there, is listening to this and wants to be where you are, having their own business and also creating content online, what would be the advice you'd give to them to get started?
Take yourself seriously. Like take yourself and what you want to do seriously, because a lot of people aren't going to take it seriously. And then just start. The time is now. You can change things as you go. You can adjust as you go. You can update your website as you go. Like none of these things have to be exactly perfect for you to launch something, because if that's your thought process, you're just not going to launch because it's never going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And the same goes for creating content. Just get out there. I mean, you have a crazy story that happened when you were in this line at Starbucks, post to TikTok. Just like start getting out there and really believing in what you want to do and not doubting yourself, because I think that really holds people back in this industry.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Erica, thank you so much for coming back on the podcast. Please tell everybody where they can find you at.
So you can find me on Instagram at Fashion Lush, and on Instagram, my brand at Fashion Kush. And then personally on TikTok at Erica Stolman Dowdy. We should write these out in the caption, right?
Yeah.
And then Fashion Kush is also on TikTok at Fashion Kush.
We love it. Erica, thank you so much again for coming back on the podcast. Guys, don't forget to rate and subscribe to the show. And please, please, please leave us those lovely Apple reviews. And guys, as always, we'll see you next Tuesday.